we're going to talk about my project IPFS Redirect, in which not all redirect links have to be a bad thing. And the goal of it is to get your user to your website, and it's supposed to be as seamless as possible and as little in the user's face as possible. And there's even options and configurations that you can choose, and you can even choose to have it not even be visible or seen or stop the user in the slightest. So I made it all in basic JavaScript. There's not even jQuery. It's just all basic HTML, CSS. It is a single page. There is nothing more. So the goal of this site is truly to be as minimal as possible and to guarantee the load and to bring your user to your website. So I'm excited to show it. And very quickly, thanks to the random people I met online who have been helping me beta test this for quite some time. So if you saw it in the wild, I had some people helping me test it. They used it for their own purposes and were giving me feedback. So that was really helpful. So let's get started. What is this project and why was it created? Well, it was created because I hate having to tell people when they go to my site, hey, this is IPFS. I really suggest you get the extension and the desktop app because, you know, it's going to load really slow. You're using this thing called public gateways, and it was just really annoying. And if you've used this enough or you've tried to get people to use your sites, you've probably gotten the same comments that I have. Why would I use this crap? I have never heard of IPFS. But this really was an annoying process and it stopped people from going to my site. So I actually have two solutions, and this is actually the first solution. And I'll be making another video when I finish the code for my second solution. So let me actually show you what I made. So I'm hosting this on IPFS, but I put on unstoppable domains, so it's going to load really fast. That's one of the points. And I got the domain IPFS-redirect, or you can get it or go to it without the dash. It's up to you. I bought both domains. It was $2. Now it's permanent hosting, so you're welcome. That's my community service. But you go here, and just remember that's a Web3 link, so if you're not using Brave browser or you don't have an extension to go there, then you won't be able to go to it until 2028 or above. But as you can see, the site is very simple. It's just like a wiki, actually. You know, what is IPFS, the browser extension, how to set up, support. We'll go over redirects later, links, stuff like that, right? Nothing too crazy, but let's go over what makes it actually powerful and why you should use it and why I want people to use it, because I want IPFS to be more popular. All right, so we're going to go to the redirect helper, but before we continue, probably should have mentioned this before. If you're not familiar with IPFS, this probably isn't the video for you. This is definitely going to be more for helping people send IPFS links. If you already understand what a CID is, stuff like that, I might make a video on that later. But anyways, we're going to go here to redirect helper. And we'll go over what these options do. But let's say you post your app on IPFS and you type in your CID, right? Well, we're going to click generate link, and it's actually going to generate a link here. Now, it chose a certain link for certain reasons. I'll go over that later. I'm still working on this. It's actually auto-adapting, and that's what this auto-adapt link actually is using. But what this will do is, before you send somebody your website, you put your CID into here, and you send them this link instead. So what does this redirect site do? Well, let's say we actually go to this redirect site. And I have an example right here. And we're going to go to the site. It's going to load, and you can see it's no longer the same wiki. You actually have a new screen this time, and you can't see it because it's my webcam's in the middle of it. There's actually a continue button that's going to follow us throughout the entire page because it understands that this is a redirect. It briefly tells you that the continue button will be there at all times. It's telling you that you can continue to site, but it's also telling you that it might be really slow, especially if you're using a public gateway and things like that. So it really suggests that you get the browser extension. And it will actually walk you through the steps. If my button wasn't broken, the minification process, by the way, keeps breaking this part. It's supposed to be down here. I'm working on that. I thought I fixed it before the video. Sorry. Okay, I did fix it. Sorry, I had to pause the video because that was bothering me. I was using the wrong link. But it will very briefly walk you through how to set up the companion app, which is only going to take you to the official link. You can click right here to set up the IPFS app, and it's going to tell you how to do this. Uses the official link. And it's also going to have port forwarding, but most people don't have to worry about that. But it's just meant to be a thing that says, hey, this is an IPFS site. If you don't do this, it's going to take a while to load. So I just thought it was really useful. But it gets better than that. It does a lot more than just being an in-between, by the way. So let's just refresh the page. And so what is this actually doing? So first of all, when you click continue to site, we're going to get a nice loading tab. So that's one thing that's already really nice, that they're going to be able to see a loader, because they're not just going to see nothing until it loads. It's going to actually show loading for you, which is really cool. But there's a lot more going behind the scenes. This redirect helper is what really makes it interesting. So let's go over each of the options and what this redirect helper is doing, because one of the cool things too is how you have to click that continue button and stuff like that. If you don't actually want that to be part of the process for somebody to get to your website, just check this box right here. Immediate redirect continue. And I have another example right here. This is the same exact site. And when we go to it, look at that. There is no in between, there is no stop, and that's kind of the point. It doesn't want to stop you. It just wants to go straight here. But let's say it's just taking a long time, right? I have this thing right here that just says click here to load faster. Click that, takes you right back to the link. It just alters the URL with one thing, and it just changes your current URL to be not immediately loading. That's all it does. So it's a really cool little way for it to actually just skip that part of the process if you don't even want anyone to see this part in general. All right. But let's go over the more advanced parts, because this is much more than just a information page and a how-to and a loader. So redirect link. Just know the auto adapt link is a code that I'm still working out. I mean, it works fine, but still working on it. But if you click on this, what it's going to do is it's actually going to check multiple public gateways to make sure that they're still available, that they're online, and that they're healthy. So it's going to check multiple before sending the user over to it. That way they're guaranteed to get to where they need to go. So it's just a helpful check. Requires origin isolation. So what does that mean? If you're not familiar with that, I actually have a brief example that I wanted to show for developers who aren't familiar with this. So IPFS.io, when you're sending somebody there through a public gateway, it does not have what's called origin isolation. And so what does that mean? So I want you to pay attention to the URL up here. Now I'm going to go to the counter page. Boom. And I want you to immediately notice the URL. We lost the CID. This is really important. This is really bad. This actually gives us a lot of disadvantages as developers, because if somebody bookmarks this page and they come back to it, or the same thing if you click that refresh button, we've lost the link because it's not the same link anymore. And that's pretty darn negative, is it not? We want to fix that. We don't want that. So I have another example actually. All right, I got it pulled up. I had a better example. I lost it and I don't feel like waiting. So basically this is the same website. And if I click counter, look at that. We don't lose the CID or the original origin URL, and it just adds counter to it. So if you're developing a website and you need that capability so it doesn't lose where it's at or the URL, this is called origin isolation. And in this scenario, right here, you will absolutely want to check this box. So IPFS.io, for example, does not have origin isolation, but dweb.link does, and so it recognizes that. So if you have this checked and this unchecked, this will actually mean you'll always go to dweb.link. If you uncheck this, it'll always go to IPFS.io. And if you have both of these checked, then what it will actually do is it will determine if it has origin isolation or not before doing its auto-adapting techniques. So it's pretty cool that it's able to detect that and make sure that it always goes to something useful. Web 3/2 just means if you're sending somebody to an HTTPS link or something like that. Let's say you have a specific link, it's dweb, or you have a Fleek account and you want somebody to go through Fleek's public gateway. Doesn't really matter. If there's a exact place that you want every time, check that box. Cool. And I mean, you can leave those checks, you can leave them unchecked. It doesn't matter because this is going to override all that. And you can put in your normal HTTP location and it will take them directly there. And I've already gone over how the immediate redirect continue works. As I said, that just skips the process of pausing the user to say, hey, you're about to go onto an IPFS site. I really suggest you get the extension. But that skips it and goes straight to the loading part and goes past all that. And the last thing, and this is actually a very recent addition, I'm really happy about this actually, because it's working really well for me. So if you have my library called Magic IPFS Loader, it's not out as of right now, but I'm getting close to finishing it, but it needs to be really reliable before anybody implements it, so I have not released it yet. But here is what this does. If you are the developer of the website, you can choose to do this if you would like to. So one of the issues is, let's say you post on IPFS your website and nobody's gone to it in quite some time, not many people are pinning it, and because of that, it might take, honestly, 15 minutes to load the website. The problem is the gateways will usually time out around 5 minutes. And if it times out around the 5-minute mark, nobody's going to go to your site. They're just going to get a 500 error saying that, it timed out, it didn't work. And most people don't understand if you keep refreshing it, it's going to force the public gateways to eventually find it, and it will eventually show up. And they don't know that. They don't need to know that. They shouldn't have to know that. So this was my resolution. In the redirect, during that loading process, if you check that button right here that says redirect site has load confirmation, what will actually happen is you need to make sure that you have this in your code. If you just want to add it anywhere, the moment that your index page shows up, you just want it to immediately show your screen, put this whole piece of code right here. But really the important part is this window.parent.post message, and we're just sending a post message saying iframe loaded. You need to do any origin to make sure that the redirect link allows it. But what that's going to do is, as long as you do that in your website and this check mark is checked on IPFS Redirect when you make the redirect link, it's going to show the loading screen, and then in the background, unseen to the user, there's going to be just a small iframe, and it's going to continuously load your website, and it's going to make sure that after it times out, it tries again. So even if it does take a while, it's going to guarantee that it loads, and it's going to continue loading. And the reason we need this code right here is that is just a very simple way that you're going to tell the redirect link that, hey, stop reloading me, I'm done. Once it knows that you're done loading, cool, you're done, send the user to your website. So it's a really cool way to basically guarantee that the user is going to get to your website, and I'm really happy with this addition. It's been working really well for me, and I'm excited to pair that with the Magic IPFS Loader. That's a really exciting project that is much larger than this one. But this was my part 1 solution to trying to get people to my IPFS site. And just so you know too, if you go to the site at any time, you can read more about it. I have, the pop-ups that are going to tell you as much as it can about it. I'm always going to have links right here telling you about where the latest versions are. So one other thing too I forgot to mention, if you go to, it is, I believe, IPFS Redirect -version.unstoppable. Again, another Web3 link. I'm going to try to keep updated the versions here and on my GitHub as well, but the point of decentralization is to always keep it decentralized. But I will, if you like, let's say there's a specific version you want to find or a reliable version, I'm always going to host it here. And if you don't want to use the newest version, which I do suggest, but the newest version might have a bug, it might have new features. So if you want that reliable version, this is where you would go. But that's it. IPFS Redirect is really meant to be for developers. It's supposed to be a way to make sure that you can make a link to get a person from point A to point B. We want to get them to your site, and we want to be as little of a hassle as possible. Now, this doesn't resolve the issue of how long it might take, and there might be additional updates to this as well, but one of the main things that this is meant to do is to reliably get somebody to your website. That is a major goal. We want to be reliable. And on your website, you can have things saying, use the extension, download the app. We're trying to bring adoption to IPFS. But at least in my eyes, I can't bring adoption if you can't come to my website. And if I can't host my website on IPFS to tell you about IPFS, well, I feel like then the point is moot. And on the site too, it'll tell you how to support projects. teaching people how to pin your project if they appreciate it. I want to bring that adoption, and I hope this helps, even if it's small. Because thank you so much for coming to my channel. I hope you learned something, and I hope this link is useful to you. I hope IPFS Redirect becomes useful to other people to share their IPFS link.